Good morning, Mr. Wijaya and friends. I'm Igusti Agung Ayu Eka Pratiwi. In this video, I would like to present the results of the research article analysis. The article that I choose, entitled Incorporating Local Culture in English Teaching Material for Undergraduate Students. This study was conducted by Igusti Ngurah Agung Wijaya Mahardika, the lecturer from Balinese Language Education Department at Institut Hindu Dharma Negeri Denpasar. So the first part is introduction. We start from the background of the study. The study was conducted in the context of the Hinduism Education Department or HED at the Institut Hindu Dharma Negeri Denpasar or Denpasar State Hindu Dharma Institute in Indonesia. One of the important competencies that must be mastered by HED students is English. This competence will help HED students in the present or in the futures to understand the ideas of foreign journal and literatures for their study. However, the researchers found that HED students are unique in that they require tailor-made teaching materials. The students in HED needed teaching material that provide them with both English materials and materials with content related to Hinduism. Moreover, the current English teaching materials are considered too heavy, focusing only on reading and lacking activities for listening and speaking. That's why the author conducted the study to develop new English material that are better suited to the need and background of its ED student. Furthermore, the characteristic of the HED student who have a special focus on Hinduism and lack of motivation to learn English prompted the researchers to create specialized teaching material that could interest the students and facilitate their English learning. So what are the research question? This study did not explicitly state the research question. However, the overall purpose of this study was to develop English language teaching materials that incorporate the local Hindu culture and meet the specific needs and challenges of HED students. In addition, there is no specific hypothesis stated in this study. However, based on my understanding, we can assume that incorporating local culture into English teaching materials will help to improve student engagements and learning achievement in English. The next part is methodology. This study was designed and conducted as research development or R&D study. Research and development study is an activity to seek a new knowledge or improve existing product, process, or services. The goal is to develop new ideas, create motivations, and solve various problems. So that the author selected this research design because it was suitable with the objective of this research, which is to develop new teaching materials that could encourage its ED students to learn English. This study used R&D research design using a simplified version of the ADDIE development model by Dick and Carey. This research used a combination of qualitative and quantitative approaches. Next, the participants of this study were 82 students from the first semester of HED 1A and HED 1B, Hinduism Education Department at Institut Hindu Dharma Negeri Denpasar. So how was the data collected? The data was collected through several phases, which include the blueprint phase, the draft writing phase, the draft testing phase, and the final production phase. Let me explain one by one. First, the blueprint phase. In this phase, the researchers identified the weaknesses of the existing material by observing the teaching learning process. Second, the draft writing phase. In this phase, the researchers wrote the new material based on the findings of the observations in the blueprint phase and with expert review and feedback. Third, draft testing phase. In this phase, the researchers testing the new material with students and collecting their feedback and criticism through questionnaire, observations, and interviews. The last is final production phase. In this phase, the researchers revise the new material based on the students' feedback and criticism to get a ready-to-use tailor-made English teaching material for the students of Hinduism Education Department. As I said before, the researchers use some pieces, which when conducting the pieces, the researchers also use questionnaire, observations, and interviews as data collection. In this study, the researchers also use some instrument, namely questionnaires, observations, and interviews. Quantitative data is collected through questionnaires. The researchers use Likert scale questionnaires to gather data from students about the material. Here, the researchers provided 5 questions, which the answer consists of several options, such as strongly agree, neutral, disagree, and strongly disagree. While the qualitative data is collected through observations and interview. First, observation. There is no information that explains what the observations method used in this study in detail. However, the researchers stated that the observation conducted by the researchers during learning process or by offline. Observations was conducted to identify the weaknesses on the existing material and to observe the learning process using the new materials. While the interviews, the researchers conducted offline interview with students to get their input and feedback on the new developed teaching materials. The researchers did not explicitly state what type of interview used in this study. Interviews may be conducted in the form of structured or semi-structured interview where the researchers ask students some questions that have been prepared. The next, how was the data analyzed? Based on the information in the article, the data in this study was analyzed using quantitative and qualitative data analysis. In quantitative analysis, quantitative data were collected through questionnaire, distributed to the student. The result of the questionnaires are presented in the form of percentages for each of the question. Percentages were used to determine student preference and responses to the new teaching materials compared to the existing teaching materials. While in qualitative analysis, qualitative data were collected through classroom observations and interviews with students. Qualitative data was used to confirm and enrich the quantitative analysis result from the questionnaire. Qualitative analysis was conducted to deeply understand student perceptions, need, and feedback on the teaching materials. So what the analysis techniques were used in the study? Actually, the researchers did not mention what analysis techniques were used in the study. However, as the information that I got from the article, it can be said that this research used data triangulation techniques as one of the analysis approaches. This indicates that data from students' questionnaire as a quantitative data were triangulated or confirmed with data from observation and interview as a qualitative data. By using triangulation, researchers can check the validity of data obtained from various sources so that the data presented can be more accurate and objective. The next part is result and discussion. The most important finding is the study found that the use of culturally familiar material is beneficial for the students' learning process. The most important finding, is supported by several findings. The use of cultural materials has decreased the foreign nuance of the material and reduced the stress level of the students due to the familiarity of the material. Furthermore, the students prefer the new material rather than the existing material. The students found that the new material more interesting, easier to understand, more enjoyable, and more helpful for learning English compared to the previous material. As I explained before, this study did not explicitly state a hypothesis. However, the underlying assumption that incorporating local culture will help to improve students' engagement and learning achievement in English was supported by the results of this study. Also, this study did not explicitly state the research questions. However, the overall purpose of this study that was to develop English language teaching material that incorporate the local Hindu culture and meet the specific needs and challenges of HED students was answered by the result of this study. The results indicate that the new material is beneficial for the students and reduce the stress level of the student because they can learn both English and Hinduism. In addition, the new material also enhance students' engagements in the learning process because it not only focus on reading text, but also include with relevant pictures and colorful presentations, structural point, speaking, listening, and writing activities, and also language games. In the discussion section, the researchers explained the result of his study by only explaining the positive result obtained from questionnaire, observations, and interview. Furthermore, the findings are compared with the findings of previous study that are in line with the research conducted. In the discussion section, I got that the author compares the result of his study with previous research result. First, this study found that students' needs should be the most vital factors in developing materials because materials that directly correspond to this need will automatically be useful and meaningful to students. The author said that this finding similar to the result of the study that conducted by Y.M. Harsono and in line with the conclusion of F. Rohman and Yuliati study. Second, this study also found that the students prefer the new material over the existing material because the culturally familiar materials helping the students in understanding the new material. The author said that this finding similar to the findings in the study that conducted by L.O. Florentino. The next is limitation. There are any important limitations of this study, such as first, conducted within specific context. This study was conducted within the specific context of the Hinduism Education Department at Institut Hindu Dharma Negeri Denpasar. This may limit the ability to generalize the findings to different English education contexts. Number two is limited sample. The research subject only involved the first semester students. This also may limit the ability to generalize the findings because the author said that this study only done on the first semester undergraduate student. If this study conducted on the elementary or high school student, the result might be different. The last is lack of comparisons with control group. In this study, there was no control group include to compare the effectiveness of the new material with the existing material. This may affect the ability to have a valid impact assessment. Next, as I said before, the study found that the use of culturally familiar material is beneficial for the student's learning process. So the implications of the results suggest that local culture should be a key consideration when developing English teaching material, especially for students learning English as a foreign language. The researchers recommend for other researchers to also investigate the effectiveness of culturally familiar material compared to less culturally familiar material in teaching English in different level or in different learning contexts. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all the results of my analysis. Thank you for your attention.